Have you ever wondered what might happen if you captured a piece of the living world and sealed it away? Imagine taking a small patch of green grass, with its roots still nestled in a bit of soil, and placing it inside a simple glass jar. You then place a lid on top, sealing it completely from the outside world. There is no fresh air. There is no rain to water it. It is an experiment born of pure curiosity. It is a question we ask of nature itself. Can life find a way to thrive, even when it is all alone? This simple act creates a miniature world, a tiny self-contained planet of its own, waiting to reveal its secrets to us. The setup is wonderfully simple. One begins with a clear glass jar, large enough to hold a small clump of earth. Into this jar, a living piece of turf is carefully placed, its green blades reaching for the light. A small amount of water is added, just enough to moisten the soil and give the grass a starting drink. Then, the lid is sealed shut. The grass is now isolated. It is a castaway on its own tiny island, surrounded not by the sea, but by transparent walls of glass. This little world is now completely dependent on what it already has inside. It is a silent, patient observer of the great forces of life. From the moment the lid is closed, a quiet, invisible drama begins to unfold within the jar. At first, not much seems to change. The grass remains green and vibrant, standing tall as if it were still in an open meadow. It has soil for its roots, a little water to drink, and the air trapped inside with it. Sunlight, the great engine of life on our planet, can still pass through the glass walls. This light provides the energy the grass needs to begin its long, solitary journey. It is a beautiful, yet fragile beginning to an extraordinary story of survival. A story that will play out over weeks, months, and perhaps even years. The true fascination of this experiment is its profound simplicity. It asks a fundamental question about the very nature of our living planet. How do the systems that support all life on Earth work? By creating this miniature ecosystem, we can watch these processes in action, but on a scale that we can hold in our hands. It is a window into the intricate web of life, showing us how water, air, and living things are all connected in a delicate and beautiful dance. This small jar of grass becomes more than just an experiment. It becomes a symbol of the resilience and ingenuity of the natural world, a tiny testament to the power of life itself. As days turn into weeks, subtle changes begin to appear inside the glass world. You might notice tiny droplets of water gathering on the inside of the jar, especially on the side facing away from the sun. It looks as though the jar is sweating. This is the first visible sign of the miniature water cycle at work. The grass, through its tiny pores, releases water vapor into the air, a process called transpiration. This moisture rises, cools against the glass, and turns back into liquid water droplets. The droplets then run down the sides of the jar, returning to the soil, ready to be taken up by the roots once more. It is a perfect, self-contained rainstorm. Simultaneously, another, even more critical process is happening, one that is entirely invisible to our eyes. This is the miracle of photosynthesis. The blades of grass are like tiny solar panels, capturing the energy from the sunlight that streams through the glass. Using this energy, the grass takes the carbon dioxide from the air inside the jar and combines it with the water from the soil. In doing so, it creates its own food, sugars that give it the energy to grow and stay alive. As a wonderful byproduct of this process, the grass releases oxygen back into the air. It is, in effect, breathing in what we breathe out, and breathing out what we need to breathe in. But what happens when the grass dies? In any natural system, life and death are intertwined. An older blade of grass might wither and fall onto the soil. This is not an end, but a new beginning. Tiny microorganisms in the soil, bacteria and fungi too small for us to see, get to work. They begin to break down the dead grass, decomposing it and returning its valuable nutrients to the soil. This process of decay releases carbon dioxide back into the air, which the living grass can then use for photosynthesis. It is the ultimate form of recycling, ensuring that nothing is wasted in this closed world. This delicate balance of processes creates a functioning ecosystem. The grass produces its own food and oxygen through photosynthesis. It recycles its own water through evaporation and condensation, and it recycles its own nutrients through the decay of its older parts. The air is refreshed, the soil is enriched, and the water is renewed, all within the confines of the jar. It is a perfect, circular system, a miniature replica of the great cycles that govern our entire planet. The grass is not just surviving, it is actively managing its own environment, sustaining itself in a beautiful, silent dance of life, death, and renewal. The survival of the grass in the jar hinges on a remarkable partnership between the living and non-living elements within it. The key is balance. The amount of water, the richness of the soil, the volume of air, and the number of microorganisms must all be in harmony. If there's too much water, the roots may rot. If there's not enough light, photosynthesis will cease. This fragile equilibrium is what allows the tiny ecosystem to sustain itself. The grass is not just a passive resident, it is an active participant, regulating its own world. It is a testament to how life does not simply exist in an environment, but actively shapes it. Let us look closer at the air. When we sealed the jar, we trapped a finite amount of air inside. For any animal, this would be a death sentence, as the oxygen would soon be used up. But the grass is a producer. During the day, with the help of sunlight, it performs photosynthesis, taking in carbon dioxide and releasing vital oxygen. Then, at night, like all living things, it breathes, or respires. It takes in some of that oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. This daily rhythm creates a balance in the gases within the jar, ensuring the air remains breathable for the plant and usable for its life-giving processes. The water cycle, as we have seen, is another pillar of this survival. The initial water added to the jar is used again and again. It is drawn up by the roots, travels through the plant, is released as vapor from the leaves, condenses on the glass, and trickles back down to the soil. This cycle is incredibly efficient. Not a single drop is lost to the outside world. It is a closed loop, a perfect system of purification and redistribution, all powered by the simple warmth of the sun. It demonstrates, on a scale we can easily see, how precious and endlessly reusable water is within a living system. The soil itself is a hidden, bustling community. It is not just dirt, it is a living matrix filled with bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic organisms. These tiny decomposers are the cleanup crew of the ecosystem. When a blade of grass or a root withers and dies, they break it down into its basic chemical components. These nutrients are then returned to the soil, making it fertile once more for the living grass to use. Without this process of decay, the nutrients would remain locked up in the dead material, and the living grass would eventually starve. The soil is the foundation upon which this entire, self-sustaining world is built. This simple jar of grass teaches us a profound lesson about our own planet. The Earth, in many ways, is just like this sealed jar, only on a vastly grander scale. It is a closed ecosystem floating in the vastness of space. We have a finite amount of water, a finite amount of air, and a finite amount of land. The cycles we witness in the jar, the water cycle, the carbon cycle, the nutrient cycle, are the very same systems that support all life on Earth. This tiny forest in a bottle is a powerful reminder that the resources we depend on are limited, and that the health of our world depends on keeping these natural cycles in balance. The study of these small closed systems is of immense importance to science. They allow researchers to understand the fundamental principles of ecology in a controlled environment. By observing what happens when one element is changed, more light, less water, different soil, they can learn how ecosystems respond to stress and disruption. This knowledge is crucial for understanding the impact of climate change, pollution, and deforestation on our planet's larger ecosystems. These tiny worlds can help us predict the future and find ways to protect the delicate balance of life on a global scale. Ultimately, the grass in a jar is a source of inspiration. It is a story of resilience, adaptation, and the incredible interconnectedness of life. It shows us that even in a small, isolated space, the intricate machinery of nature can create a self-sustaining world of breathtaking complexity and beauty. It encourages us to look more closely at the world around us, to appreciate the hidden processes that support the green grass in the park, the trees in the forest, and indeed, our own existence. It reveals that life is not a series of isolated events, but a single, magnificent, and interwoven story. And so this humble experiment leaves us with a sense of wonder. It is a living sculpture, a miniature Earth that continues to thrive through its own quiet ingenuity. It reminds us that every component of an ecosystem, from the tallest tree to the smallest microbe in the soil, plays a vital role. The tiny forest in a jar is a powerful symbol of hope. It demonstrates that life, when given a chance, has an extraordinary capacity to create and sustain itself. And it teaches us that the greatest lessons about our vast and wonderful planet can sometimes be found in the smallest of spaces.